United States has bombed Iran for weeks. It has flown thousands of sorties, and still, the Strait of Hormuz is not truly safe. That tells you something important. Airstrikes alone may not be enough. Now Washington is sending one of the most flexible assault forces in the U.S. military, the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit, a forward-deployed force centered on the USS Tripoli. This unit brings roughly 2,200 Marines, aviation, logistics, and amphibious assault capability in one package. Why does that matter? Because the Strait of Hormuz is not just another sea lane. It is the world's most critical oil choke point. In 2024, roughly 20 million barrels per day moved through it, about 20% of global petroleum liquids consumption. So if Iran can keep threatening ships there, it can shake the entire global economy without defeating the US Navy. That is exactly why this fight is so dangerous. The Marine option changes the equation. A Marine Expeditionary Unit is built for fast raids by sea and air. It combines infantry, armored capability, MV-22 Ospreys, helicopters, F-35Bs, command, and logistics, all operating from ships as a mobile base. So what could Marines actually do? First, seize Karg Island. This is Iran's main oil export hub, and experts cited in recent reporting say roughly 90% of Iran's oil exports move through it. That makes Karg more than an island. It is a pressure point on the Iranian economy. If the US destroys Karg's infrastructure, it risks a massive energy shock. But if Marines seize it instead, Washington gets leverage. That gives Trump a bargaining chip. Reopen Hormuz or lose control of the island that finances your state. Second, seize islands inside the strait itself, especially Qeshm, Kish, or Hormuz Island. Qeshm is especially important because it sits right at the mouth of the strait and has hosted Iranian naval activity and missile positions. From islands like these, US forces could monitor traffic, interdict Iranian fast boats, and respond faster to missile threats against commercial shipping. In other words, Marines would not just be taking land. They would be taking away Iran's tactical advantage over one of the narrowest and most important shipping corridors on Earth. And politically, this matters too. Putting Marines on offshore islands is very different from invading mainland Iran. It gives Trump a possible loophole. He could argue there are no American boots in Iran proper, while still escalating military pressure in a very visible way. So the real message is this: Washington may be reaching the limit of what air power alone can do. If the US wants to physically change the map of the crisis, not just punish Iran from a distance, Marines give it that option. And that is why this deployment matters, because the next phase of this war may not be about striking Iran. It may be about taking positions that Iran cannot afford to lose. Why is the United States suddenly alone in one of the world's most dangerous crises? Because even its closest allies don't want to enter the Strait of Hormuz. This narrow waterway carries 1/5 of the world's oil, and right now it's effectively blocked. Oil prices are rising, global markets are under pressure, and Washington is asking for help. US President Donald Trump has demanded that allies send naval forces to reopen the strait, but instead of support, he got hesitation. Europe's response: caution, delay, resistance. Any mission requires unanimous approval, and countries like Germany are already pushing back. Asia's response: even weaker. Japan and South Korea, two of America's most important partners, have refused to commit ships. And that's despite the fact that Japan gets 95% of its oil from the Middle East. So what's stopping them? Risk. Reopening Hormuz is not just a naval operation. It means sailing directly into a war zone. Iran still has the capability to target ships, launch attacks, and disrupt any escort mission. That makes every vessel, military or civilian, a potential target. And even if allies join, it may not change anything. European officials say additional ships would take weeks to arrive and would add little beyond the massive US naval presence already there. As Germany's defense minister bluntly put it, what can a few European ships achieve that the US Navy cannot? But this isn't just military, it's political. After years of tensions over tariffs, NATO funding, and foreign policy, allies are no longer eager to follow Washington into another conflict. As one analyst warned, the US is now discovering how much goodwill it has burned. Even Britain, America's closest ally, is stepping back. Prime Minister Keir Starmer made it clear The UK will not be dragged into a wider war. Other countries are even more direct. Spain warned against any escalation. Several European governments said they have no plans to send ships at all. And in Asia, the hesitation is even more strategic. Japan and South Korea are wary of supporting a war that has no clear endgame, is not backed by the United Nations, and could pull them into a much larger conflict. Even Australia and New Zealand have stayed non-committal. And then there is China, a major energy power, a key player in the region, but completely unwilling to join a US-led operation, because Beijing has close ties with Iran and no reason to support Washington's war. And that reveals the real problem. This isn't just a military crisis, it's a credibility crisis. The United States is asking for a coalition, but no one wants to sign up, because the risks are high, the strategy is unclear, and the outcome is uncertain. So now the question is no longer, can the US reopen the Strait of Hormuz? The real question is, will it have to do it alone?